name is Ashley, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about HSG and my personal experience having one. HSG stands for hysterosalpingogram, I believe, if I'm not butchering the word. What they do when you have an HSG is they start looking for blockages, polyps or fissures in your uterus and fallopian tubes. They check them to make sure they are open and healthy. Something that I didn't realize is when they are open, the contrast that they put into your cervix eventually pulls out, like it pools, not pools, but like to gather a collection of a liquid, it pools out of your fallopian tubes on the sides, and that is to tell you that you don't have any blockages and that your tubes are open and healthy. I didn't realize this. I just thought that they was supposed to stop at your ovaries and that would be it, but no, that's not how that works. In preparation of my HSG, I was given a form that said to take the birth control with my menses and to contact them to make an appointment. I was confused about this. The wording was a little weird on it. What they wanted me to do was take my Provera, which I think it was Provera, to jumpstart my period, and that way I could start my cycle day 1, and I would call up there and contact them to set the appointment, which would be through day 6 through 10, somewhere around that window. But on my paperwork it said to take your contraceptive with menses. I took that as day 1 of contraceptive, not day 1 of menstrual cycle. So I waited until my cycle had completely ended and I had started my birth control to call them. I was on, I believe, day 12 at this point. I have very, very long cycles when I am not regulated on birth control. That was the first birth control I had taken in about a year and a half, maybe a little less, due to the fact that we had been trying. Previously, I had been on birth control for 9 years. I called up there on day 12 and I told them, and they told me that that was incorrect and I would have to wait until my next menstrual cycle and to call on day 1 to set the appointment. So a month later, that's exactly what I did. I called up there and I asked the scheduling person if I was supposed to take my birth control now, because that's what my paperwork had said. It said take contraceptive with menses. And I was confused. So they contacted a nurse and sent me over to her. And she said, yes, we will be able to get you in at any time if you take it with your menstrual cycle, so we don't have to wait at all. We don't have to wait to that 6 to 10 days. And we can get you in as soon as possible. Well, they didn't change my scheduling, so I was still doing from 6 to 10, and I found that a little strange. So I just did it because that's what they told me to do. And then I have found out the hard way through friends that if you don't do what they tell you to do and you get up there, they won't do anything, because even if they're wrong, you didn't do what you were supposed to. Now, had I thought that it had been a huge risk to my health, I wouldn't have done this, but had it be like a minor thing, they would be held liable. But I believed my nurse. I just did what she said. I took my contraceptive and I made the appointment, and I went. So the day came and I went with my husband. I was not nervous. Except for the last 48 hours, I had been messaging my friend and I was all concerned and nervous, and then it went away when I got there. They told me I needed to have a full bladder so they could view my insides better. And I usually like go to the bathroom around the same time every day. It's pretty much the only thing I'm regular about my entire health situation. And so I did that. I made sure to not go, and I made sure to drink a little bit extra the night before. I got up there, they handed me a bottle of water. They asked me if my bladder was still full. I told them yes. They told me just to drink on that as much as I could, but not to do it to where I was uncomfortable. So I sipped on it a little bit, and before I knew it, I was back there. They had me go to a room and they had me say goodbye to my husband. It does involve radiology or radiation. So he wasn't permitted into the room, which is fine. I don't want him to have any adverse health side effects. So I told him I loved him, and I told him that I would see him soon. And so he skedaddled. Now, something when I researched the HSG for myself, because I like to know my procedures before I get involved in them, I had noticed most of the women had said that they were told to strip down, wear 1 or 2 gowns, and to lay on a table, and then they would give them like a sanitary blanket thing. Not really a blanket, just like a sheet, small little cloth. And they would cover themselves. So I was expecting the same, but my facility told me to just strip the bottom portion of myself. So I was told to strip down my waist down, and that was it. And then I was to get on the table, and they gave me that little cloth thing, and I put my legs in the stirrups. Now the little difference between having a well woman done at an OB's and having an HSG was the stirrups. That was a little different. Instead of just 2 things that you put your feet in, that has a little bit of like a little mesh thing that your feet just set into. It was like big leather boots, and I believe they were burgundy. And so you put your feet in these weird boot-shaped things, and then they have a Velcro top. And that is to secure you in. The reason why they do this is when you're dealing with a lot of sensitive areas, you are going to shift and to move, and it's just to prevent you from sliding off the edge or to shifting and pulling something incorrectly or hurting yourself. It's not really that big of a deal. It's just to kind of like, it's a preventative of accidental harm. And it's completely comfortable. I was not at all concerned. It just was a difference that I had noticed between having my well woman and having the HSG. So during my HSG, my doctor came in and she took out a speculum. I'll show a picture of what a speculum looks like. I had heard from other women that it's a little bit bigger than the normal one. I really don't know if it was or not. It had been a few months since my well woman, and honestly, it's not very comfortable at all. Either way, I call it the hummingbird. I used to call it the medieval torture device because it pulls and stretches and opens up everything. The only difference between that and the rack is the rack does it on the outside, the speculum does it on the inside. So it's not a very comfortable sensation. It's definitely a little weird if you've never had it done, but for the most part I was used to it, and if it was a little bit bigger I didn't really notice. So they opened up my vagina and they looked at my cervix. So then they asked me if I was allergic to iodine, and I informed them for the 3rd time that I was not. They asked me 2 times prior, which is just triple checking to make sure that there is no issue, because of course there are precautions in place just in case. I am not allergic to iodine, I'm not allergic to latex, so we were good. She then explained that after she opened my cervix, she was putting the iodine in, and then she told me she was giving me a local anesthetic. I don't know if she used just like a lidocaine or if she used an actual syringe. I don't know, I wasn't really paying attention. And I can really turn off, I've given blood so many times that I can turn off that little pinprick of a sensation that when somebody injects you with something or puts something inside of your veins or whatever. So I don't think she did, but I really was just kind of tuning it out. So I'm not exactly sure if that was just another cotton swab of something or not. Pretty much everything was going great. She told me that she was now going to put in the spaghetti. This is what it was. I don't know its actual name for it, but I call it the straw. It has this little itty bitty tiny little straw spaghetti part, then a balloon, and then another spaghetti part, and then it has this little place where you would put like the contrast in, and I guess like a syringe or something to help pressurize it. I'm not sure what everything goes where, but yeah, she told me she was putting that in. She told me I would feel some pressure, and I did. It was not very much at all. It was not uncomfortable, just some pressure. Then she told me the balloon was going in, and that was a little bit more pressure, but it still wasn't like terrible or anything. I was completely fine. And then she said she was taking out the speculum, and something happened, and instead of taking out the speculum decided it didn't want to move, and she just kind of like pulled on it, and it didn't move, and I was just like, well, that's one way to yank the entire vagina, and that felt great. But no, it did not hurt, and it was definitely not on purpose. She goes, okay, it's not coming out yet, and then she took like an extra second, because she only has 2 hands, and was able to finagle it out, and that relieved a lot of the inside outer wall or inner wall pressure that I was having. So it did, like, there wasn't pain. There is no pain thus far, and so it helped relax, and it just felt a little better, even though there was still pressure within my cervix. So she takes out the speculum, and she starts to put in the contrast. I don't feel the contrast. If I did, I don't remember feeling the contrast. All I remember is that there was 3 monitors, 2 or 3 monitors to my right, and the farthest to the left of the monitors was where you could see like the sonogram / x-ray of my insides. And she took about 8 photos, maybe 6 to 8 photos, and I kind of watched it in real time of the contrast going through my fallopian tubes, through my uterus, and then exiting my fallopian tubes. Now, right when she was taking her very last picture, I felt a ton of pressure and pain and cramps. I let out a noise that was very unintentional, and she told me she was almost done. I started to move a little bit, which was involuntarily, but it did hurt a lot, and I did feel like crying. I did not cry, but I did feel like crying. Then all of a sudden, the pain of the balloon she said she was deflating it, and she pulled it out, and that went away, but I was still feeling the cramping and the pain, and it still hadn't subsided, but the pressure had alleviated, thankfully. She asked me if I was okay. She informed me that the nurse would be helping me with everything else, and she would see me in her office very soon. And then she reassured me that everything looked good so far, and she would see me. So the nurse was so sweet. She said that it's okay if I feel lightheaded. It's okay if I need to lay there for a few minutes. She told me to take my time. She told me that it was normal. Everything I was feeling was fine. If I needed just some time to myself, she was there for me. And I sat up after she took off the Velcro of the syrups. I was able to sit up. I stayed there on the mat for maybe like 10 seconds, maybe less. Sat up and told her I was fine. She then told me that there were sanitary pads and wipes, and that there would probably be iodine contrast and blood exiting out my body, and that was completely normal, and that's what the pads are there for. I remember her leaving, and I looked back at the mat that I had been laying on. It was another sanitary pad, but a very large one, and they had put a plastic bag underneath my rump whenever they had first started putting the iodine in. That was just to catch any collective, but just in case it comes down a little bit further, they did catch some on that pad. It was not very much at all, and they had removed that plastic bit from me before I had even gotten up. So I'm not sure how much came out right away, but I'm pretty sure there was a good amount. So I got up and I put on my pad and everything, and I'm so glad I did. Make sure you take care of that, because I felt very weird. It's weird because when you are on your period, you can definitely feel when things are moving around and coming out of you.
I'm sorry, apparently my camera cut off at where I was speaking and didn't record anything else, and I hadn't realized until I had heard the shutter turn off, which was about 2 minutes after the recording shut off. So I'm just going to go over really quickly what had happened. After putting on my sanitary pad and cleaning up, we were taken to our doctor's office, where she showed us the HSG. Now, this is not our actual HSG. I'm posting it up on the screen now, so you have something to look at. Now, this is not ours. She said that she put it in the patient portal. I watched her put it in the patient portal, but for some reason it's not there. So what this is pretty much what mine looks like, just slightly different. The uterus itself is actually bigger than mine, but the heart shape is about the same. Now you can see the pooling on the sides of the HSG where the contrast comes out of the fallopian tubes. That is completely normal and fine. And you can see the slightly heart-shaped part of my uterus. Now this is exactly what I saw, with the squiggly lines being my fallopian tubes. Now this is what she showed us, and it was completely fine. We are happy and healthy. There are no blockages. We don't see any polyps, and we don't see any fissures. Now that does not mean that I don't have any. I know I don't have any blockages, but that doesn't mean I don't have any fissures or polyps, but we will find that out once they go in and do the laparoscopy surgery. Now if there's any polyps, they can just remove those. I'm not so sure about fissures, but they might take care of them while they're in there anyway. But I highly doubt that I have anything like that. I just have a uterine septum. That seems to be my only problem. Again, I do apologize that my video turned off. But yeah, that's pretty much what happened. So back to the remainder of the recording.
So that's my HSG experience. That's what I went through. If there hadn't been any accidental pulling on my straw / spaghetti, I don't think I would have had any pain. So don't be nervous getting into it. It's really just a bunch of pressure that's very temporary, and once you're done, you're great. So don't fret, don't worry. Worrying doesn't help anybody. I have really bad anxiety. It's terrible, so I worry about everything constantly, and if you need to do something to help cope, please do. But just know that it'll be fun. Just make sure that you get everything you need to taken care of, and I hope on this journey it ends with happiness, a bundle of joy, and everything you've always wanted. That's all we can really ask for, right? Please make sure you follow my fertility journey if you care to find out where it leads and where it ends up. If you are experiencing anything similar or something the same, or might be in this boat later on, just go ahead and follow us and see if there's anything that I can help you with. Because there's nothing worse than being alone in a journey. And you're not alone. I'm not alone, you're not alone. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope to be able to inform you on our fertility journey further, and I hope you are able to go along with me for the ride. Please remember, you're not alone, I'm not alone, we are in this together. I will talk to you guys very soon. Bye!